What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 107 of the RUDIS Wrestling Podcast, brought to you, as always, by us. Matt, we are going to have a little debate, and then we're going to get some CKLV preview action going. So, the debate is, and I can't believe we've had 107 episodes. We haven't discussed this one time, so I don't know where you stand. Dual meet NCAAs versus NCAA championships determining the NCAA champion. Where do you stand? Go.
Well, I am probably a wrestling purist. If you coin that thing, I think we have the greatest national championship in the world. We have the greatest wrestling event in the world with the NCAA tournament, and the way it's grown, not only attendance wise, and we're seeing the reach of what a scale of this event could actually do in Minnesota this year, where they actually have over 40,000 tickets sold already. And it's just the greatest wrestling tournament in the world.
I agree.
And I think.
So why mess with it is what you're saying?
Yeah, why mess with it? I mean, it's not broken. It's not even nearly broken. It continues to grow. I mean, if you look at not only the attendance at each event over the last decade, it's sold out everywhere. To the point where they're expanding it into an NFL stadium for the first time.
Yes.
The TV ratings continue to grow on ESPN every year, to the point where every single match is televised and the ratings continue to increase. So from a reach and a fan perspective, I think it's the greatest wrestling competition in the world.
Okay, I agree. I don't disagree with anything you said. So my take would be, I would love a situation where we could do both, right? Have an NCAA dual team tournament and an NCAA championship as is, that also determines, however, a tournament champion, right? Whatever you want to call that. Track and field does indoor, outdoor. They're essentially the same events. I don't really see why we couldn't do something to that effect. Obviously, maybe you might point out some type of Title IX implications or something there. I don't know. I don't care about Title IX implications. I'm just talking about in my own head what I want to see happen. And so I'll tell you where my biggest struggle is, Matt. When people say the NCAA championships is the best way to determine a team champion because it shows the real strength of your lineup. Where I struggle there is you could throw 40% of your team out there and you could win, right? If we take the top 4 scorers from Penn State last year, and a couple of the other years they won, they would win the NCAA championship with those top 4 scorers, or at the very least they would have the capability to, right? Like 96, 98, 100 points have won NCAA championships, and we could see the top 4 guys from a team score that amount. That has happened. So what other sport? Name another sport. In basketball, could you put 40% of your lineup out, 2 out of 5 guys, and win the game? Or football, put 4 out of the 11 guys out there. It's impossible. Can we say that's impossible? Is that fair?
No, that's totally fair.
2 guys will not beat 5 guys. 4 guys will not beat 11 guys. You can put 4. So being able to put 40% of your lineup out and win a tournament, to me, that doesn't sound indicative of overall team strength. When you think about true team sports, what that means to me is you need, a lot of your team participating to do well, right? A lot of them, if you have weak holes, right? If you're in football and you have a weak offensive line, sure, you're going to win some games because your quarterback and your receivers are great, but not other games. You have a great offensive line, or if you have a great offense, but your defense sucks, you're going to lose some games because your defense sucks. So if you want to talk to me about actual team strength, throwing 40% of the people out there is probably not an indicative way of determining what your actual team strength is. Can you argue with that?
No, you can't argue with it, but I think where there's some nuance here is you're talking about true team sports. When you're talking about basketball and football, you can't play with 8 guys on the field. You're going to get run through. I mean, it's a true team sport.
40%, less than that. 40. I'm talking 40%.
Right, but if you're looking at how other individual/team sports work, I mean, it's very consistent with swimming, with track and field.
I don't know their scoring system nearly as in depth as I know the wrestling. So
their national championships are determined similarly to wrestling, in the sense where you qualify for through your conference championship.
Let's just stick to wrestling, because you're going to get me out of my depths in those other sports.
Okay, so let's specifically talk about wrestling. Like in a perfect world, I think everybody would agree that if we could crown a dual meet champion, a dual team champion, and an individual tournament champion, that would be great.
Yeah.
But what most people don't understand, that even the individual tournament, there's an overabundance of the number of athletes that actually justify, like the NCAA determines based upon the amount of teams that compete, the amount of D1 teams that compete, that determines the number of qualifiers your national championship should actually be. Currently, we have 33 guys that qualify for the individual championship.
That which annoys me. It should be 32. The 33 is just annoying.
It should be 32. Actually, if you break down the numbers through the NCAA, we barely justify more than a 16-man bracket for the NCAA tournament.
Because of the amount of teams. So why do we get the amount of so big?
Because I think it's established. There's been a frame of context where you qualify the setting of the event. They hadn't wanted to scale it back. So the people that say, well, why don't they just introduce another team championship through the NCAA? Well, just the cost associated with that for the NCAA to legislate it, enforce it, govern it. You're essentially introducing another sport.
But the pushback there though, Matt, is the NCAA wrestling championships are one of the very, very few that produce revenue for the NCAA. So
correct.
You could take that model and say
one of 3 or 4 that actually generate
I was going to say 4 or 5. So we'll say 4 because that's the middle, and hopefully we're correct. So one of 4 that generate revenue. So if you're saying wrestling, we already won once. Let us go win twice for you. Let us move that number from 4 to 5. And I think it's gonna be better for you NCAAs. I think because especially the way the dual meets are being attended today, we've talked about this whole season. Every single dual that was big that we're watching, whether it's UNI, whether it's Penn State, whether it's Ohio State, whether it's Fresno State, Iowa, right? All of these dual meets are being really, really well attended. So I think you could very easily make a case that, especially if you add and these dual meets they don't mean anything. They're just dual meets, right? If you add, hey, this is the round of 16 at the NCAA tournament. If you win, you're going to the Elite Eight. Like, I think you can make an argument that added impetus there is going to drive more people to the event rather than less. You could raise the ticket prices, right? I mean, you would say.
This isn't probably the greatest argument to be made because we've never had a sanctioned NCAA dual meet tournament. We've had NCAA duels run by the NWCA for the longest time.
Which the 16 teams in one location. Especially in this era of dual meet attendance doing really well, I can't foresee why you would want to put 16 teams in one location. I just think that's really like maybe the Final Four we could do that, but the other ones you kind of either keep at home or something to that effect.
Yeah, and when you really, and even in those scenarios, how do you? I understand that there's a lot of interest by the institutions that are dueling and their fan bases. But I guess the problem is, would it be something, and I don't know if we've ever come up with the proper format to see if this really has legs. Like, would it be embraced, domestically throughout the country as opposed to just the fan bases? We know that we could, if we have whoever, Penn State, Iowa, wherever you have the duel, it's going to be sold out. Penn State, Ohio State, it's going to be sold out.
Yeah, you put it Penn State or Ohio State, or Iowa, wherever it's at. I think you'd put it there, and then you home field advantage. Screw that. Let's have a gigantic crowd, and maybe the NCAA has to allot the other fan base a certain amount of tickets. Like we talked about 2 years ago, the greatest dual meet of all time, Ohio State, Penn State. When Penn State allotted Ohio State like 84 out of 6,500 tickets or something obnoxious like that. So you'd have to allot some tickets to your opposing squad. But yeah, I just one of the arguments that I hear a lot, I guess this is from the FRL crowd, but I've heard this other people, is like, we want the best guys. Like, who cares if 184 is unranked versus unranked, right? But again, when we're talking about team sports, this is a team, right? I'm not talking about individuals. Team. Hey, listen, if you got the 2 best centers in the country, and they're playing basketball, well, those guys probably they're not gonna cause differentiation. But if you got the 12th best point guard versus the 174th, if their point guard sucks and your point guard is decent, you're gonna get some really good value out of that spot. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter that your guys, if he's the 25th best point guard, the other guy's 174th, you're going to get a lot of value out of that spot. So for team sports, it's all about differentiation between positions. You know, where can your team add value that their team can't?
No, I mean, I agree with that. And again, I think the dual meet is very important. It's important to grow your program, to grow the viability of your program. I just think.
Oh, you're a traditionalist, Matt. You're scared.
I am a traditionalist. I'm just a traditionalist. I love the tournament. And I love. There is the individual component that is the truest part of the sport.
How do you feel? Okay,
this is my thing. This is what I always would pose to my athletes. Like, if you had a choice, Ben, to be an individual champ or a team champ, and you had to pick one of the two.
Oh, individual.
What would you pick?
Individual,
right? So that really, like, as much as we say it's a team sport, which it is, fundamentally, it's still an individual sport. When it comes down to you,
I don't disagree. I am just speaking. So I agree with you. You nailed it there. I agree. But if we're going to crown a team champion, don't we want to do the best job of creating a team? I mean, Matt? What if we doubled the first place person's points? You know, you're going to get, some years you're going to get the same champions, but some years you're going to get different champions, right? Just because we increase the value of something. And so I guess the only argument I'm making, I don't disagree with that. I'd rather be a team individual than team champion. But if we're going to crown a team champion, we need something that's most representative of a good team. And I would argue, I would push back against a lot of people, and I would say the NCAA championship is my number one favorite event of the year. But I would push back in saying that the NCAA tournament is not the most representative of a good team, because you can show up with 40% of your squad. Now, this doesn't happen, but it could, right? Theoretically, we do the numbers, it can happen. 40% of your squad, and you win the NCAAs. That's crazy.
Well, even I mean, I can give you an example. When I was at Clarion, we were top 20. We were, I think, like 18th, something like that, in the country. We only qualified 4 guys. We had 2 All-Americans, and we were a top 20 team.
Well, I'll give you a better example. When I was at Arizona State, we were 4-12. We stunk. We were 4-12. We took 6 at the NCAA championships because Bubba Jenkins and Robles were beasts, and we snuck Levi Cooper into being an All-American.
Yeah.
We had 3 guys. With 3 guys, we took 6 in the country, and we were 4-12 in dual meets. I mean, we were really bad that year, but because we had those 2 high point scores, I mean, it really. If you take away Levi Cooper's points at number 8, you know, it probably sinks us to 7th or 8th place. But really, with 2 guys, you could be a top 10 team in the country.
But isn't that the beauty? I mean, I think that kind of like goes to my point a little bit about the value of the NCAA tournament is you have those programs like a Clarion that people can embrace and get behind, because all of a sudden they are competing with the top programs in the country.
Well,
in a dual meet setting, like, based on the funding of the program, the scholarships of the program, a program like Clarion is never going to be able to compete in a dual meet against one of the traditional powers, because just economically, you can't compete against those teams. Yeah. But this gives everybody, the NCAA tournament, it gives everybody a chance. It gives everybody a chance to be talked about, to be embraced, to compete against other teams that they couldn't really compete about for whatever their restrictions are. I would never be able to compete.
Are we talking feel good story here? Because that is a feel good story. Or are we talking about what is the actual best way to determine a team? And should we cater to those guys who don't have as much funding? And so, here's what I'm saying. There are 2 different ways to determine the best team here: a tournament, and a duel. I think when you look at that, is it always the same? No. Is it sometimes the same? Sure. A team's so good, they're going to be both the best team, dual team, and the best tournament team. But they're not always necessarily the same. And if you want to just say, I don't see how I would, and you haven't refuted this argument yet, directly, and I would love to hear someone else. How in what other sport can you show up with 40% of your team and win the effing national tournament? It's impossible.
I already told you that. You can do it in swimming. You can do it in track and field.
Well, then they need to change their team the way their team thing is calculated also. And
okay, let me ask you this.
Yes.
And let's just critically dive into this. If you had, how many teams could compete for an individual championship, and how many teams realistically could compete for a dual meet championship? I think when you open the door, if you're strictly going to determine the team champion by the best dual meet team, wouldn't that open the door for some ADs to say, well, shoot, I'm at Clarion University. There's no way in heck I can field, if this is how the national champion is determined and your competitive level is determined, why would I even want to?
Clarion Field's a basketball team, right?
A D2 basketball team.
Okay,
so they admit, even at that level, they can't compete.
Let's see, who sucks at basketball? I don't know basketball.
I'm just saying, if you're an AD,
basketball and fields a team.
I'm just saying, if you're an AD and you're at Clarion University, let's just keep using them as the example. If I'm the AD and my national champion is determined through a dual meet format, I'd be like, we can never compete in this. Why do I really want to support it at all? As opposed to, hey, at least I have a puncher's chance. If I get a couple guys on the podium, Clarion University can be a top 20 program. And that's phenomenal for this school and this institution and its community, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about how communities embrace the dual meet format. Well, if you can't really compete anybody on a high level on a national basis, but you can do it on an individual basis, like that was a badge of honor for everybody in the community when we placed top 20 a couple years ago when I was the head coach there. That was something the entire community embraced. They wouldn't have had that opportunity if it was only based on a dual meet setting, right? So I get how the dual meet for the community, it's something for everybody to rally around when, Lock Haven comes in.
I don't disagree, but what about the exact same example I gave at Arizona State? Like, wouldn't you say well, that's they shouldn't be the sixth best team in the country? Would you say that? Or, I mean, what would you say? Because I gave you the same example, just a little bigger because Robles and Bubba won titles and not as feel good of a story because they're fully scholarshiped in a major program.
Yeah, I would say that at that time, they had room to grow from a competitive level, and they should, you would think, be able to compete on both levels. They should be highly competitive on the dual meet level, and they should be highly competitive on the individual level as well.
So I guess you're not totally pushing back with the fact that I don't think you felt the need to push back against that. 40% of your team shouldn't be a true indicative team thing, but what you're saying is you love the NCAA championships, and that also that most of the underfunded programs will be non-competitive if you go to a dual meet format.
And if they're non-competitive, what's the impetus for these institutions to really support these programs? Why?
Yeah.
I mean, because D1, right? If we fundamentally agree, D1, the onus is on winning and losing. If you're a D1 institution, you want to win at this level.
I'm not an AD. So I don't want to speak on that. I mean,
there's a variety of reasons why.
Don't you have to keep an amount of sports? Don't you have to keep X amount of sports to be D1?
I believe it's 16 is the minimal number.
How does Clarion do that? Because you said they're D2 in basketball and other stuff.
Well, they are grandfathered in where they are D2, just like Lock Haven and Bloomsburg.
Okay.
And Edinburgh. They're D2.
This used to be a thing, but it's not a thing anymore?
I believe so. I believe you can apply, and I'm not. I thought you
had to move your whole athletic, like I said, NDSU or SDSU or some of these other teams that are moving all the way to D1.
I think you can
all their sports.
I think there's an opportunity to just be D1 in 1 or 2, but not D1 across the board. I don't know. I can't speak to this as well. So I don't want to talk out of my mouth and not have all the facts in front of me. But
okay, fair enough. All right. So if I propose that we could do both a dual and a team tournament, are you in favor?
Say
Or
that again.
if
Sorry.
I propose that you could do both, I'm not trying to cancel your NCAA tournament because I also love it. It is my favorite tournament of the year. And if you told me to pick one or the other, if you told me I had to pick one, I'm picking the NCAA tournament, right?
Yeah.
I just think there is value in doing the dual meet. I think it could be a really big thing. And I think there's a scenario where now that we're showing that the NCAA tournament is so financially valuable to the NCAA that maybe there's a way we could push a second championship.
Yeah, I think that that's the ideal scenario. I mean, if we could in a perfect world, I'm just saying a lot of people argue all the time. You know, it's like when I hear people talk about, well, this kid should get a sixth year, right? Because
Yeah,
he got hurt. I'm like, well, you got to understand the rules of eligibility, what determines how you can actually apply for a sixth year. I'm saying the same thing when it comes to the NCAA and how they determine and how they hand out NCAA championships. We don't warrant the ability to have both, because I think it would be great in a perfect world, Ben. I think it would be great if we had a dual meet season,
yeah.
crown a dual meet champion, and then have an individual season and just have a tournament format, whether that's in the, just kind of
That
like
probably
indoor, outdoor
yes.
track, two
Right.
completely different seasons. I think it would be great.
I
I don't
think
know
that.
how you do that. I don't
Well, you know what
know.
else that would do? That would be so. 'Cause I think that's the best way to do it. But you know what else that would happen there is that I think then you would get coaches more willing to move their lineup around too. To get those matchups, the matchups that make their dual team the best.
No, I agree.
So yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Okay, I think that was fair and balanced. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think we're in agreement. I think, and I know there's been this big push by the NWCA and everybody in college. I think everybody can agree. The more people that you put in the stands at your home dual meets, the better the the better it is for the sport. The better it is for your individual program. But given the restrictions with the NCAA, it's either one or the other. I guess that's what it comes down to. It With the current setting and the current landscape within the NCAA, we would have to choose. Keep the individual tournament. If you want to crown a champion, you either keep the individual tournament or you have to turn it completely into a team tournament. And that would kind of deny individual champions,
Yeah,
right?
which
And
is
that's what we really want. I mean, that's what
correct.
we're in it
So we
for.
really want.
Individually, at its base, at
That's
its
what it's about.
fundamental core, it's about the individual champ.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well let's go on to the Las Vegas Invitational. I'm not interested right now. I mean, I'm sure we'll do this next week, Matt. I'm not really all that interested in talking about all of the weights. There's really 4 weight classes that I'm like, oh man, these are going to be totally awesome. I can't wait for these. So are you cool if we just talk about 4 of them? And we
Yeah.
need to make predictions on those 4 because then
Yeah. And I mean, I love this tournament. I think it's the best college tournament, in season college tournament anymore. I don't know what your thoughts are about it, but I think typically what you see, if you're on the podium here at this tournament, there's a very good likelihood that you're going to be on the podium come March. And I think this is, of all the things that we started talking about leading up, the first, how do you quantify results the first month of the season? I think most coaches that enter their team into this tournament, they're really pointing towards this weekend to really this is the first opportunity to really see where you are on a national level,
yes,
where your team and where your individuals are.
yes, I totally agree. Um, and what's funny, I think about tournament strength. Tournament strength is different than NCAA tournament strength because the champions are rewarded. I mean, obviously, look at like we laugh about the Black Knight Invite Army beating Penn State, and that it's a really small tournament. So there's only 8 teams. So Penn State's Hammers, they're gonna be first at the Black Knight, they're gonna be first at the NCAA championships. Right, but their ability to score more than other people is not equally measured. Same thing at the Big Ten championships. I mean, how many times Has it been? It's been either. I think it's been 3 times where Penn State does not win the Big Tens and then wins the NCAAs. Correct? Yep. It's been 3 times because their big hammers are going to be first at the Big Tens. They're going to be first at the NCAAs. And there's that differentiation factor where other teams don't have that same thing. Okay, here's the weights I want to talk about. I sent you the link so you can look at it. 184. This weight is freaking awesome. Number 1 weight. This is so. I mean, paying to watch the tournament would be worth it for just this weight class. Man, if you told me there's a pay-per-view event and all we get to watch is this weight class, I'm in. I'm buying it. I'm paying for it.
I'll buy it. I'm in.
Seriously. Okay. Top 8. Here's the top 8. I mean, this is crazy because Hunter Boland is number 8. And he's a 10th ranked guy in the country. Zahid Valencia, Trey Hindley, Lou Duprez, Ben Darmstadt, Taylor Lujan, Sammy Colbert, Taylor Benz, Hunter Boland. And then even below that, you got Jelani Embry and Max Lyon. I mean, holy crap, this weight class is good. If the seeds stick, I think it's really interesting because Darmstadt Lujan, we've never seen. We've also never seen either of Darmstadt versus Valencia. Hidley Duprez is a replay, but then you got Taylor Venz. Taylor Venz almost beat Zahid Valencia 2 weeks ago. He's the number 7, so you're gonna see him versus Hidley in the quarters. It's ridiculous.
I mean, this is going to be the closest thing to the NCAA tournament before the NCAA tournament.
Who are we missing from this? I'm gonna see who we're missing from this weight class. Hold on, probably Nelson Brands, obviously, but he didn't even start. Well, Shakur, but he hasn't wrestled at all. Shakur, Nino Bonacorsi, and Nelson Brands are really the only top guys that you're missing.
Yeah, outside of that, I mean, we've got all the major players in here. And, the one thing that we've been discussing, and we've kind of got a good insight, if somebody could compete, I think what we talked about in the preseason was who, if anyone, could challenge Valencia. Ben's pressed him. We'll see how Valencia's conditioning looks, and I don't want to look like the Spencer Lee people that attack him or the expect.
But Zahid had an 8-7 match where he barely won 2 weeks ago, so you're fair in doing that. I mean, it's a different story.
Now we're going to see if there's more than one person, because I think for Valencia to win this match, he's going to have to win 3 straight tough matches against top 8 guys.
Sure. So Hunter Boland's the number 9 ranked guy in the country right now. Well, I'm on the internet. I'll go to Flow. We'll see what they say.
Yeah. So I mean, if seeds hold true, he's going to have to beat Boland. Then he'd have to beat Darmstadt, and then he would beat Lujan.
But you got Darmstadt Lujan.
I'm just saying if seeds hold true, he's going to have to beat number 8, number 4, number 2 back to back. And I mean, that's going to be a very similar runway to what he's going to face at the NCAA tournament. So it's not a matter of can a individual test him. We've seen that Venz can do that.
Yeah.
Will multiple guys be able to test him? And, when multiple guys, as he has to beat each one of these guys, would open up the crack even more for someone to slip in there and take Valencia out.
Yeah, I totally agree. So to me, the Darmstadt Lujan match is fascinating. I've actually not a self plug here. Both these guys were at my scramble camp multiple years. I think 4 years for both of them. And when I watch them wrestle, obviously they know what they're doing in there. And one of them was 197 2 years ago. The other one of them was 174 pounds 2 years ago. So there was a big gap in their sizes. Now we're seeing that both at 184. Obviously, Lujan looked so good against oh my gosh, he wrestled Taylor Venz 2 weeks ago. Darmstadt did not look so great against Trent Hidley. So obviously this one's going to play out in the scrambles, and I can't tell you, I can't really pick a favorite because it's like it could really, this match, if you wrestle it 10 times, I feel like it would be like a 5-5, a 6-4 split. Like it could really go both ways because they're both so dynamic in the scrambles.
Yeah, and not only that, it's the case of 2 similar styles. Who comes on top, and then we look at number 2 and 3, which we saw a couple weeks ago between Hidley and Dupre.
Wait. Can we talk about? Let's talk about if the seeds hold. Venz versus Hidley, I think is really interesting also. But that's before that, Deprez. I mean, I don't think Sammy Colbray presents quite. Maybe I'm slow playing him. Doesn't present quite as many problems as Taylor Venz. I mean, I would say Taylor Venz's ups and downs are bigger, right? He's got bigger ups. So when he's better, or when he's on his top, he's up. Obviously, when he's down low, he's lost some worse matches there. But I mean, Venz could, in my opinion, present some really interesting problems oh my gosh, why am I blanking? My man from NC State, Trent Hidlay. Sorry, I was looking at different screens. So that could present some really big problems. And Hidlay struggled a little bit on bottom against Darmstadt. Obviously, Venz is really, really good on top. And Venz is really good in the scrambles. And Hidlay likes to blow through people. So it'll be interesting to see if he can execute on that.
Yeah, I mean, these matchups, that's what's really interesting. Like you said, Luhan, Darmstadt, that's a coin toss because they're so dynamic and they're so dangerous and dynamic, right?
Yes,
as opposed to you look at Hidlay and Dupre, they're more fundamentally sound. They are dynamic in different ways, but they're more fundamental and more traditional, and they're the way they attack and the way they wrestle. But that's also appealing because we saw, what Hidlay and Dupre have done to Darmstadt. Well, It'll be interesting. They've both defeated Darmstadt. How's he's adjusted, how's he's adapted, how he's made the jump in the last several weeks after getting beat by both of these guys.
Yes.
And his adjustment to 184. And he hasn't looked in November. Again, it's November, but he hasn't looked in phenomenal shape, the first month of the season. But I think that's by design in Rob Cole's game plan. I think we've never seen a Cornell team look great in the month of November. And I don't think Rob Cole really cares one way or the other. He's all about the end of the year, but it will be interesting to see, how Darmstadt's jumped in the last month.
I agree. And it'll be interesting. The other interesting thing here is Darmstadt has not had a 2-day weigh-in yet. This is obviously a 2-day weigh-in, first time at 184. So we'll see how that affects him also. Because if you look at, I believe they do the semis the second morning. So that the Luhan Darmstadt match would be later in the day. So obviously he was having more time of recovery. But if he does win that match, then Valencia Darmstadt will be early in the morning, fairly quickly after weigh-ins. Okay, pick your finalists, pick your winners. Let's go.
So I will go Valencia versus Dupre. And I actually think Dupre has a good chance to be. I want to see this matchup because it's.
Oh, you're not picking Dupre. You're not picking Dupre over Valencia. Stop antagonizing us.
Okay, I'm gonna pick him then.
You're picking Dupre?
I'm gonna pick Dupre.
You're gonna look like a genius if somehow that works out.
I just think there's a lot of things that I think. Some of the things that we saw from Dupre in his match with Darmstadt, I think he could do some similar things to Valencia. I think he could actually overpower him in some situations. I think he could slow him down. I think he could lock him up. I mean, it's all about when I look at that matchup, it would be like, I don't want to say weather the storm in the first period, but he can't create a huge level of separation. He can't give up like 3 takedowns in the first period and have a chance. If he can, I think the matchup would be that gives Dupre a chance is, can he keep it within 2 points by the last 2 minutes of the match? If he's within 2 points in the last 2 minutes, I think he's got a great chance there because he's extremely strong. He's a bully. He's physical. He's going to push the pace for 7 minutes. And I don't think we're going to see the best conditioned Valencia at this point of the year, where I think conditioning could play a factor. And I think if it's a close match going to the third period, I give the edge to Dupre.
Okay. I'm going to go, as I said, I'm so excited to see so many matches. I'm going to go Valencia over Hidlay. I think I saw Hidlay get the jump on Duprez a couple weeks back. I think the same thing's going to happen, or something really, really similar. So I go Valencia over Hidlay. Okay, let's go to next weight I really want to talk about, 157 pounds. So you got number 1 Hidlay, 2 Deacon, 3 David Carr, and more. It's you got David Carr, you got Kendall Coleman, you got Will Luan, Ja'Cory Teamer, Peyton Robb, Justin McCoy, all freshmen. Oh, Colton Yapugin. So for me, this is not that you have as many high-ranked guys, which you do have. You do have the number one and the number. Well, I guess Deacon's number 3. Oh, okay. So you have 1 in Hidlay, 2 in Carr, 4 in Deacon. So you got some good guys in there, but more it's like, how are all these freshmen going to play out over the course of a tournament? It's not one match. How are they going to look? Is Will Lewan going to step up? Is Ja'Cory Teamer going to step up? Is it going to be Kendall Coleman? And we've seen the CKLV be a breakout for many, many people over the past decade or so. Who's going to break out? If the breakout stars going to come from this tournament, I feel like the breakout stars going to come from this weight class right here.
No, without a doubt. I mean, this is how it differs from. I think this weight class in some ways is just as exciting as 184, but there's just many more unknowns. What we saw at 184 is these guys. We've got a body of knowledge with all these guys for the most part. We know outside of Hidlay, but with Hidlay, he's got some results to back up where we think he could be. With some of these freshmen, outside of Carr's got a big win so far. What will some of these freshmen do? And do they have the chops to really knock off a guy like Hidlay or Deacon? Where will these big time surprises where I don't think if we go back to 184, any upset we see from an 8 guy up, if the number 8 beats Valencia, I don't think we'll be totally shocked.
Well, it's the number 9 guy in the country for what it's worth.
Right, but here, even though Teamer is ranked, I'm not sure where his ranking is.
He's low because he lost.
But could he? I think he's a guy that could beat a guy like Hidlay or could beat a guy like Deacon. And
I was really high on him. So when he didn't look so great earlier this year, I was kind of like, oh, really? I sure thought he was going to do better than that. So who knows? Maybe this is the one. This is the place where it comes up. I think a guy who's not. This guy's not even ranked, but Peyton Robb is a guy who I think, wow, he could. I've seen him look really impressive at certain times. Will Lewan, another guy who he beat Alec Pantelio last year. So these freshmen are, few. There's a whole bunch of them here this weight class, and I'm excited to see which one breaks out.
And I think what's great about this format in a tournament, right now, most of these guys, what we've seen so far, by and large, is some dual meets. And there's a different type of pressure there when you're a freshman stepping out into your own arena or an opposing arena for the first time in a dual meet setting. There's a little bit more pressure, individual pressure there, as opposed to a tournament setting where you have, 15 mats going on. You don't have every eye in the arena on your mats, so you don't feel the same type of anxiety as you do in a dual meet setting. So sometimes the freedom of a tournament format like this, you see the true abilities of the guy, and they're just willing to let it fly, and there's not that type of pressure that they're facing so far. So I think the freedom of a tournament setting plays into where we can see the potential of these younger guys come out and come to fruition a little bit more than in a dual meet.
I agree. Who's your pick?
I'm going to go, as much as we just talked about all the young guys, I'm going with Hidlay and Deacon, with Deacon winning it.
Okay. I am going to go Hidlay over David Carr, which is not all that.
Wow.
I mean,
so
David Carr.
So you're thinking David Carr is going to take down Deacon in the semis?
Yes.
Really? Any reason behind that, or just that's your gut?
That's just my gut. I think I think David Carr. I like if he beat Hayden Hindley, I wouldn't be all that surprised. I think David Carr is going to challenge for national title. I think we've seen him look really impressive. He's good everywhere, and he's just going to continue to believe in himself more and more as the year goes on, I think.
Yeah, I just think Deacon's a guy. He's been on the podium a couple of times. We were out in Fargo this summer and talked to Matt Storniolo about what he thought contributed to Deacon's fall off at the end of the year. I don't think, if that holds true, that we're going to see that. I think what we saw from Deacon, I think a lot of us, I know I was speaking it all year. I thought it was going to be a Nolf Deacon finals all last year.
Yes.
I still think, I really believe Deacon's the guy here. I think if I had my pick for a national champ this year, Deacon's going to be the guy.
Wait, did you just pick Hidlay over Deacon?
No, I picked Deacon over Hidlay.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. I misheard you.
I did.
Okay. All right.
Unless I misspoke. I might have misspoke, but I'm
rewind
going
the tape.
Hidley Deacon
Rewind
with Deacon winning it. And if Deacon's my national champ pick, which he is,
Okay.
I'm going to pick him at Cliff Keen.
All right. Fair enough. Okay, 149. Another one where, okay, if the freshman standout didn't come at the last way, it's going to come at this one. So you got Purinton, Thompson, Deegan, Perriott, Zackrell, Sasso, Brayton Lee, Yaya Thomas. That's your top 8. So the freshmen here obviously are Sasso, Brayton Lee, and then you also have a guy who a lot of people are high on, but is not. He has no good wins, so he's probably not going to be the rankings. Andrew Alirez, who was the number 1 guy last year in the country at 152 pounds. So I think this one is really interesting. I'll go first, Matt, with the picks here. I think Sasso is going to shock people, make the final. Then he's going to beat Jared Deegan. I think he's going to beat Max Thompson, and I think he's going to beat. I don't know who's going to make the final from this side. I'm going to go with. I'm going to actually go with Brock Zackrell all the way down at number 5, beating Perriott and Purinton. And so I'm going to go Sammy Sasso over Brock Zackrell for the title.
Wait, you just stole my pick. That's exactly what I was.
You're going to pick that? I'm inside your head. That's why I went first.
Yes, you're inside my head. I just think, I think, we've seen some uneven performances from Sasso, but yes. I think when he gets into a flow of the tournament, this is what I think. I think once he gets into a flow of the tournament, he's going to continue to build momentum throughout. I think right now he's still got to figure it out if he can get his weight under control and manage that the right way. But I think once he gets those first couple matches out of the way, I think he's going to build a huge head of steam, and I think he's going to be a handful. I think it's going to be Sasso Zackrell in the finals with Sasso winning it.
Man, you copied me.
I did. Great minds, right?
All right. Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Last one I want to talk about, and then we'll call it a day. And I can't wait. This tournament is Friday, Saturday, so we're getting pretty close to it. All right. So we got 141. It's the last really awesome weight class. Let me read these. This is gonna make you excited. Luke Pletcher, Dom Demas, Mitch McKee, Chad Redd, Tariq Wilson, Ian Parker, Mitch Moore, Chris Sandoval. So no freshmen here, no big surprises. But what you do have, you have 1 Luke Pletcher, 2 Dom Demas, 4 Mitch McKee, 6 Chad Redd, 7 Tariq Wilson. So you got 5 of the top 7 in this bracket, with a few other really tough guys thrown in there. I'll go first again. I think maybe I will steal your picks here. I really like how Chad Redd looked at you and I was blown away. I'm going Chad Redd over Tariq Wilson and over Luke Pletcher to make the finals versus Dom Demas, where he got pinned by Dom Demas. He does not get pinned this time, but Dom Demas puts it on Chad Redd in the finals.
Man, this is going to sound boring, because I was going to say the same thing again. You got to give me the chance to go. We got to switch these. Well,
you went first. You went first the first 2.
Yeah, I've been on here a lot. I'm a big fan of Chad Redd. I like how he's coming out of the gates this year. Last year, he found his stride right at the end. Yep. I think he's whatever struggles were happening, whatever was going on with him during the regular season last year, I think he's beyond that. Everything we've seen so far, I'm really fascinated. I'm excited. I hope the Chad Redd Tariq Wilson matchup happens, because I think that's going to be fireworks. And for me, I just want to see. I think Demas is going to come through as well on the bottom half. I want to see this rematch again, and I think something. I'm gonna go with Chad Redd over Dom Demas.
Ooh, okay, all right, cool, Matt. That was a lot of fun. So again, CKLV starts on Friday, so we're going to watch this Friday, Saturday, biggest thing of the weekend. I'm actually going to be attending the Cougar Clash, which Mizzou's at, Wisconsin's at, and Southern Illinois, and a few other teams are at. So that should be a lot of fun. I'll have some insight from that when we get back next week, and I think we'll have a few new number 1s in the country. So I think we're having a good weekend.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right. Talk to you later, Matt.